You said yes. You didn't want to. Something inside you, quiet, almost a whisper, said no, but you looked at their face, you felt the shift in the air, and you said yes, anyway. And then you smiled, because that's what you do. You drove home, or sat back down at your desk, or stared at your phone, and you felt it. That hollow weight in your chest that nobody sees. Not exhaustion from what you did. Exhaustion from what you had to become to do it. That feeling has a name. And today, we're going to find it. Because here's what nobody tells you about being the nice one, the helpful one, the one everyone counts on. It's not a personality. It's a wound. And it's been bleeding for a very long time. If that just landed somewhere true, stay with me. Subscribe to Imperial Mindset. This is the kind of conversation we have here. Most people know 3 trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze. But there's a 4th one. Psychologists call it the Fawn Response. And it's the one nobody talks about, because from the outside, it looks exactly like kindness. Here's how it started. At some point, maybe early, maybe so early you can't even place the memory, you learned something. You learned that when you expressed what you actually felt, something bad happened. Silence, anger, withdrawal. Maybe nothing dramatic, maybe just a look. Your nervous system, which is extraordinarily good at keeping you alive, registered that. And it made a decision. Being yourself is dangerous. Being agreeable is safe. So you adapted. You became attuned, almost psychically, to what other people needed. You learned to read the room before you entered it. You learned to adjust your tone, your energy, your opinions, your entire self to match whoever was in front of you. And it worked, so your brain filed it as the solution. Epictetus, a man who was born into literal slavery and still became one of the most studied philosophers in history, wrote that there are 2 categories of things in this life: what is up to us and what is not. Our inner world, our values, our judgments, our responses. And the outer world, other people's opinions, their approval, their reactions to who we are. He said that the moment you hand control of your inner world to the outer one, you have made yourself a slave, not in chains, in approval. The people pleaser does this every single day, without knowing it, without choosing it. Because it was never a choice. The problem is, you're not a child anymore, you're not in danger anymore, but the system is still running, automatically, in every room, with every person. You didn't learn to be nice. You learned that being yourself wasn't safe. Here's where it gets dark. Every time someone approves of you, every thank you, every relieved smile, every "I don't know what I'd do without you," your brain releases dopamine. The same chemical triggered by substances, by compulsive behaviors, by any addictive loop. Which means you are neurologically addicted to other people's approval. Not metaphorically, chemically. And like any addiction, the supply starts to feel like oxygen. Without the validation, the gratitude, the sense of being needed, something in you begins to panic. So you keep giving. You keep shrinking. You keep saying yes, not because you want to, because the withdrawal is unbearable. Meanwhile, underneath that smile, your body is keeping score. Every time you suppress what you actually feel, every time you perform calm while you're screaming inside, cortisol spikes. Your stress hormones don't care that you're smiling. They respond to the truth, not the performance. Done chronically, this degrades your immune system, disrupts your sleep, raises your baseline anxiety to a level where you can't even identify what you're anxious about anymore. You're just tense. All the time. And you've stopped questioning why. And there's one more thing, the most insidious of all. When you consistently override your own preferences, your own desires, your own voice year after year, the part of your brain responsible for knowing what you want and who you are begins to go quiet. Ask a chronic people pleaser what they want for dinner, and watch what happens. Ask them what they actually want from their life. The silence isn't indecision. It's erasure. Let's be precise about the damage, because this is not a metaphor. Your relationships are built on a lie. You give without limits. You attract people who take without guilt. The people who love you love the version of you that's performing. They don't know the actor is exhausted. You don't know what you want. Years of putting others first has silenced your internal compass. You can tell me exactly what everyone else needs. You cannot tell me what you need. That's not selflessness. That's self-abandonment. You are angry, and you have no idea. Resentment has been building behind the smile for years. It leaks as passive aggression, as sudden collapses over small things, as a coldness that confuses even you. The niceness was never the whole story. The rage just had nowhere to go. You are lonely inside every connection, surrounded by people who need you, admire you, depend on you, and completely alone, because they know your surface. Nobody knows your interior. That specific loneliness, loved but unknown, is the particular hell of this pattern. You have made yourself small in your career, in your relationships, in your ambitions. Every time you shrink to make room, you teach the world that your space doesn't matter. And eventually, you start to believe it. And you have mistaken suffering for virtue. The exhaustion gets called dedication. The self-erasure gets called humility. You wear your depletion like a badge, and nobody questions it because it benefits them. Seneca wrote it brutally and simply: we suffer more in imagination than in reality. But the people-pleaser has a specific version of this. They suffer endlessly in the imagination of what would happen if they said no, if they disappointed someone, if they took up space. And because they never test it, the fear stays infinite. The cage stays locked from the inside. The cruelest thing about this pattern is that your suffering looks, from the outside, exactly like kindness. So, why don't you just stop? Because the first time you try to set a real boundary, a real one, something happens that nobody warns you about. The guilt is physical. It sits in your chest like something is dying. Your mind will tell you that you're being selfish, cold, difficult, that you're hurting people, that you're becoming something you swore you'd never be. That voice is not your conscience. That is the Fawn Response protecting its own survival. And there's something darker still. Some of the people around you, the ones who built their entire relationship with you on your compliance, will push back when you change. They'll call it a phase. They'll say you've changed, as though that is an accusation. They'll make you feel like the problem. Because for them, you were never a full person. You were a function. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, surrounded by people performing for him, expected to perform for everyone else, wrote privately in his journal, "It never ceases to amaze me how easily we love ourselves above all others, yet we put the opinion of others above our own. A man with absolute power, still fighting the same war you are fighting, still having to remind himself that his inner world belonged to him. If it was that hard for him, understand what you are up against, and understand that you are not weak for struggling with it. The relationships that survive your honesty are the only ones worth keeping. That truth is devastating, and it is the beginning of everything. The goal is not to stop being kind. The goal is to find out whether your kindness is chosen or compelled, because those are two completely different things. Compelled kindness is a wound performing as a virtue. Chosen kindness is one of the most powerful things a human being can offer. You've never been allowed to find out which one you have, because you've never been allowed to say no. So start there, brutally small, not a confrontation, not a speech, just one truthful thing, once, somewhere safe. Actually, I'd rather not. I need some time. That doesn't work for me, said quietly. Without explanation, without apology. The first time will feel catastrophic. Your nervous system will treat it like a threat. That's normal. That's the pattern fighting back. And then nothing terrible happens, and your brain files that too. Carl Jung spent his life studying the mask we wear for the world, what he called the persona. He said the danger was never the mask itself. The danger was forgetting you were wearing one. Forgetting there was a face underneath. The work is not destroying the mask. The work is remembering the face. You still have one. It has been quiet, but it is still there. If this runs deep, and for many of you, it does look into internal family systems therapy or somatic work. These go beneath the cognitive level, into the nervous system where the fawn response actually lives. Talking about it helps, but healing it requires going to where it was first learned. I want to go back to where we started. That moment, you saying yes, the hollow feeling after. You've been living in that moment your entire life, so consistently, so quietly, so convincingly that most people around you have no idea it's even happening. But you know. You've always known. Nobody asks the nice person if they're okay. Not really. Because the nice person always seems fine. The nice person has everything handled. The nice person doesn't need anything. So let me ask, are you okay? Not everyone else. Not the people you're already worrying about as you watch this. You. Are you actually okay? You don't have to answer out loud, but notice what moved when you heard that. Notice what it felt like to be asked. Epictetus believed that the first act of freedom is simply seeing the cage clearly, not breaking it, not escaping it overnight, just seeing it, naming it, understanding how it was built and who built it and why. That is what today was. This is Imperial Mindset. And if you've been carrying this quietly for a long time, you are not alone in here. Drop one word in the comments. Just one, whatever this stirred in you. I read every single one, and if this reached someone who needed to hear it, send it to them. Sometimes a person needs something named before they can begin to put it down. Subscribe to Imperial Mindset. We go where most channels won't. See you in the next one.